Meet a 30-year-old father. Today's payday. And for a moment, he feels unstoppable. Rent, groceries, his kids' favorite snacks, maybe even a little treat for his wife. Same salary as last month, same shopping list in his head. He has no idea that list is about to get a lot shorter. He walks into the store with the same list, same store, same brands. But when he reaches the checkout, the total on the screen doesn't match the total in his head. He counts his cash again. He checks the receipt. Nothing's wrong, except everything is. The same basket that fed his family last month now costs more. And his paycheck? It didn't move an inch. That night, he lays the bags on the kitchen table. His wife notices first. Fewer items, lighter bags. He explains he bought the same list, same prices he remembers, or so he thought. He didn't lose his job. He didn't get a pay cut. So why does it feel like his money is worth less than it was a year ago? He's not alone. Millions of families around the world are asking the exact same question, from city markets in Southeast Asia to grocery aisles in Europe to street vendors in Africa. The same scene is playing out. Different currencies, different languages, same math that doesn't add up anymore. Economists have a name for what's happening. They call it food inflation. But for the man standing at that checkout counter, it doesn't feel like an economic term. It feels personal. To understand why his grocery bill went up, we have to go back, not to his kitchen, but to a trade war that started thousands of miles away. Starting in 2025, the United States rolled out sweeping new tariffs on imports from dozens of countries. By early 2026, the average tariff rate on goods entering the U.S. had climbed to levels not seen since the 1940s, roughly 4 times higher than it was just 2 years earlier. Tariffs sound like a tax on foreign companies. In reality, they're a tax that quietly gets passed down the supply chain, from importer to retailer to the man standing at that checkout counter. Let's break it down. A tariff is simply a tax on goods crossing a border. If a country ships coffee beans into the U.S., the U.S. puts a 20% tariff on it. The importer pays that extra 20% before the beans even reach a warehouse. But here's the term economists actually watch: the effective tariff rate. It's not the tax on one product, it's the average tax burden across everything a country imports, blended together. Why does that number matter more? Because it tells you the real weight sitting on the entire system, not just one item on a shelf, but the whole supply chain feeding into it. So how does a tax paid at the port end up on a receipt in a kitchen thousands of miles away? Follow the chain. The importer pays the tariff first. To protect their margin, they raise the price they charge the distributor. The distributor does the same to the retailer, and the retailer, facing higher costs on nearly everything coming through the door, raises the price on the shelf. Nobody in that chain absorbs the full hit alone. Each link passes a little more forward until it lands on the only person left at the end of the line, the customer holding the cart. And this doesn't happen overnight. Analysts tracking past tariff cycles found the full effect can take 12 to 18 months to fully reach grocery shelves, which means prices can keep climbing long after the headlines about tariffs have faded. Take coffee. When the U.S. placed tariffs on beans from Brazil and Colombia, 2 of the world's largest coffee exporters, American coffee prices jumped by roughly 20%. But here's the part most people miss. It didn't stop at the U.S. border. Because coffee is traded on a global benchmark, that price shock rippled outward, pushing coffee costs higher in countries that never imposed a single tariff of their own. One country's trade policy. A price hike felt in kitchens on the other side of the planet. Here's the part that surprises most people. Coffee isn't priced country by country. It's priced on a single global benchmark, the same reference price that traders, roasters, and retailers everywhere use to set what they pay. when the U.S., one of the world's largest coffee buyers, suddenly faces a tariff, it doesn't quietly step aside. It still needs the coffee. Brazil and Colombia produce too much of the world's supply to easily replace, so American buyers keep competing for the same beans, just at a higher cost. And because every other buyer on Earth is pulling from that same global pool, priced off that same benchmark, the shock doesn't stay in America. It spreads to every kitchen that ever brews a cup, whether their country ever signed a tariff or not. One tax, one border, a price hike felt on a shelf in Jakarta, Berlin, and Lagos alike. If this trade war sounds familiar, it's because we've been here before, on this channel. Remember Vietnam's rise as Asia's new factory floor? That China plus one strategy wasn't just about phones and sneakers. It's the same playbook now reshaping food. As tariffs made sourcing from certain countries more expensive, companies did what they always do. They looked for the next cheapest door. Some of that global food and goods trade started rerouting through exactly the kind of manufacturing hubs we covered in our last episode. The tariff war isn't just changing what's on the shelf, it's redrawing the map of who supplies the world. Every trade war creates winners and losers, just not the ones politicians usually promise. Domestic producers in tariff-imposing countries sometimes gain a temporary edge, protected from cheaper imports. But that protection comes with a price tag, and it's rarely paid by the companies at the top. Farmers in exporting countries lose buyers overnight. Retailers absorb what margin they can before passing the rest along. And households, regardless of which side of the tariff they're on, end up carrying a cost they never voted for and can't negotiate away. In a trade war, the two sides that make the headlines are governments. The side that actually pays is everyone else. Tariffs didn't cause this alone. They landed on top of a system already under strain. Conflict in the Middle East disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a corridor that carries not just oil, but a third of the world's fertilizer trade. Fertilizer prices spiked, and fertilizer isn't optional for farmers. It's the difference between a normal harvest and a smaller one. At the same time, weather patterns tied to El Niño threatened crops in major producing regions, and rising energy costs made it more expensive to grow, transport, and refrigerate food at every single step. Tariffs added a tax, the world added a squeeze. Together, they didn't just raise prices, they raised the risk that prices keep climbing. So where does this leave us? The FAO's food price index has been climbing for months, sitting above where it was a year ago. The World Bank projects global food prices to keep rising through 2026 and warns the risks lean higher, not lower. Analysts tracking past tariff cycles say the full cost typically takes 12 to 18 months to reach store shelves, which means for many households, the worst of this squeeze may not have arrived yet. The man from the checkout counter isn't imagining things. He's living through the early chapters of a story that's still being written. Back at that kitchen table, nothing about his paycheck has changed, but now the picture makes a little more sense. It wasn't one bad decision. It wasn't a single company getting greedy. It was a tariff signed thousands of miles away, a shipping lane disrupted by conflict, a fertilizer shortage, and a weather pattern, all landing on the same grocery bag at the same time. He's not failing at managing money. He's standing at the end of a very long chain. So is there a way out? Partially. Some governments have already rolled back tariffs on specific foods once the political cost of angry voters outweighed the revenue. Trade deals, when they finally get signed, can lower the pressure again. And over time, supply chains adapt. New suppliers step in, new routes open up, prices find a new normal. But eventually doesn't help him this week. For now, households are doing what households have always done when the math stops working, adjusting, buying less of what's expensive. switching brands, waiting for sales that used to be optional and are now essential. It's not a solution, it's survival while the system catches up. Zoom out far enough, and his kitchen table connects to a farmer in Colombia, a shipping lane in the Middle East, and a policy decision made in a government building he's never seen. That's the uncomfortable truth about a globalized economy. The things that feel most personal, like what's in your fridge, are often decided by forces you'll never get a vote on. Not because anyone planned it that way, because that's simply how interconnected the system has become. Understanding that connection doesn't lower his grocery bill, but it does answer the question he walked in with. His salary didn't shrink. The value hiding behind it did, chipped away, one tariff, one disrupted shipping lane, one policy decision at a time, until the same number in his bank account buys a little less of the life he's used to. That's the answer to the question we started with. Not a single villain, not a single fix. Just a system so connected that a decision made in one country quietly rewrites the grocery list of a family who's never heard of it. If you want to understand how this connects to the trade shifts we covered in Vietnam, that episode is right here. And if you want to keep following where this story goes next, subscribe, because this isn't the last chapter.